I don't have the volume up, that's why. Usually it goes bing. Should be better, yeah. Anything I need to check though. Fully charged. What's that? Speakers on, okay. We got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Plus me. Okay. This one is better. 10. Got 10 students. Eleven. $12. Okay. Is one person. Wow, okay. Yeah, so it's nearly 1:30. Okay.
So, teacher, like for next week, the March 8th, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I'm going to have absent because I have a doctor appointment. So, so at the time, am I going to email you about my absence again, or do I have anything to for you to announce you that I'm going to absent for next week?
Mm, can you send me an email to remind me?
Okay, that's okay.
Do you
Yes.
know my email address?
Mm.
Do you know my email address?
Yes, you have shown me already. So
Okay, so send me, I mean, just to remind me because, I might forget. So if you can send me an email just to say that in one sentence, then I will do it. And next week is important. It's 1:30 now, yeah? So next week is important because we are going to do the preparation for the following week when I think we are going to do the midterm speaking test. So next week will be, today is the 1st, yeah? 1st of March. So next week will be the 8th. On the 8th, we're going to do the preparation for the midterm speaking test, which will be on the 15th, yeah? And we have to do it then, really, because the following week we are back online on 21st and 22nd of March, Monday and Tuesday. We have to do the class online for some reason that the secretary just told me, I think this morning. Or yesterday. So we need to do the speaking test on the 15th because I need to do it in class. I can't do it online, yeah? So we're going to have two classes at the university, and then we go back online for that week with 21st, 22nd, and then we are back at the university again. But by that time we are well over halfway through the course because we only have 10 classes, yeah?
So for the speaking test, we are going to speak face to face with you or with our friend.
Well, I'll tell you that in a minute, because I can't give a one-word answer. I have to explain how we will do it. And so now I want you to be thinking about how you're going to do it, because I want you to put down your name next week on the schedule. So if you're not here, then you need to ask your friend or me in the email. It depends how you want to do it. You have to ask your friend or me to put down your name on the schedule, and then we're going to actually do it the following week, means March 15. But I'll tell you how we're going to do it because it needs me to explain it. So that's what I will do in a minute. I have a number of things to explain about how we're going to do that. I'm just waiting till we get the reasonable number of people. 4, 6, 18, 20, we've got 21 students. Okay. So this class is not too bad. How many students? I've got it here. This class, oh, I can't see like that. This class has 28. Oh, I see, not too many. Do they all come? 28 mostly, except for haven't ever seen Vo Ti Tan Hang. Did Vo Ti Tan Hang drop out? Maybe. So maybe we only have 27. So that's not too bad, because the speaking test is a function of the number of, the time for the speaking test is a function of the number of students in the class. So if we have 27, we can probably do it in 2 hours. So I don't need to start it until 2:30 on March 15. And next week, I want you to write down your name on my spreadsheet, which I am making up. So I'm going to tell you what you need to do to think about where to put your name. And also you need a provisional title. And I'll talk about that as well in a minute when we've got most of the people. How many now? 19, 20, 22. So we might have another 4 or 5, but okay. Okay, so it's 1:36, so maybe I can talk about that now. I have a question before I forget, because they sent me a schedule Let's just show you. And they said, you know, next week we're going to actually do in-person classes at, what's it, 39, what's it called? Hammongy Street, yeah? We're going to do in-person class next week. So that means like this. Can you see this? So this is the right time here, Tuesday class. 1, 2, 3. Now we are 3, the 1st of March. As you can see, I hope. Can you see there? It says room 401, 401. Does that conform with your schedule? Because I asked the Monday class and they said that's the wrong room. They said on their schedule it says 601. What does it say on your schedule? Do you know? Which room are we in next week? I'm just asking because of the disparity between my schedule and what the Monday students said. And they have a big class, so bigger than your one. So it's a little bit different.
Yes, we have the 401 also.
You have 401, so maybe that's right for the Tuesday class. Okay, good. Because Monday they said it's 601. But on my schedule it just says 401 for Monday too. Okay. Okay, so you're okay, that we're okay. So next week then I'll see you on Tuesday, March 8 in room 401 at 39 Hammongy Street, where that university is. And so what we're going to do is some preparation for the actual speaking test, which we need to do. We need to do preparation for the actual speaking test, which is the following week, meaning March 15th. So I'm just going to talk a little about how you can prepare for that. So, you know, midterm, we are having this kind of speaking test. It's a test of your ability to explain or to use business English in conversation or in just an explanation in speaking. So, and then the final test will be actual, you know, a more standard kind of written test. But it's probably a good idea because when you use English, there are two ways you might use it. You might use it by writing or by speaking. That's kind of usual situation, yeah? So you have the what they call the receptive skills, such as reading and listening, yeah? So you practice the receptive skills, reading and listening, and then you can improve your productive skills, which means the other two, writing and speaking. So you study reading and listening, and then you can do writing and speaking. And unless you have lived in an English-speaking country, probably your speaking is not as good. It's probably easier for you to do writing. In fact, usually it is easier to do writing because you can think about it. It's similar to the difference between a translator and an interpreter. Do you know those two jobs? So if you are a translator, then you you translate languages from one language to another language, but you can write it down, and that means you can look in dictionaries, you can think about it, you can think what is the best way to say, you know, one sentence, and using the common phrases in another in another language. You can think about it, you have thinking time. Yeah, that's a translator. But if you are an interpreter and somebody is saying blah 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 in one language, you have to change that into another language in just 1 or 2 seconds, yeah, without really thinking. So it's more difficult usually to be an interpreter, because most people are better at, I don't know they're better, but writing is easier because you have thinking time. Yeah, when you are speaking, especially if you're on the telephone, which is quite difficult, you don't have thinking time. You just have to answer straight away or whatever. You have to translate it, or you have to give a response straight away. So it's more difficult usually. I can think of an example of when my speaking was better than my writing when I studied Japanese, because I went to Japan and worked for a crazy person, a Mr. Sugiyama, and from the first day he got me to do things in Japanese without any explanation. It was very stressful, and I had to answer the phone in the office and tell him what people have said who don't speak English, yeah, from day one. So, and then go out and find students on the street or wherever and ask them to go there, obviously not in English. In fact, it was in a provincial area, not really a very big city. So nobody spoke English. But in fact, I learned Japanese very fast by speaking. But it's very stressful to learn in a difficult way like that. So I passed the proficiency test at Tokyo University after 2 or 3 years of being in Japan, because my speaking was good. If you know Japanese, you'll know the writing is quite difficult, actually. Actually, the sounds and the speaking is not very difficult, but the writing is difficult. In Vietnamese, it's nearly the other way around for me now. But then I was in my 30s, so it's easier to learn. But, you know, usually, I'm just saying that because usually it's more difficult to do speaking. You have to respond instantaneously or within a second or something. You don't have time to think. So, but it's a good idea to do, you know, one test for speaking and the other test mostly writing, because then we are practicing those two productive skills. You have the receptive ones, listening and reading, but you also need to do writing and speaking, because they're both productive skills that you need, usually you'll need to be good at or able to do, yeah? So, okay, so I'm going to tell you about how I'm going to do that preparation next week. So this is what you need to do. You need to think about 3 things, I think. I'm going to put a schedule on the computer, and I want you to write your name in a box somewhere. So one of the things you have to think about is, what order are you going to do it in? Because for this class, let's say we start at 2:30 and we finish at 4:30. I think 2 hours will be enough for us. I mean, if you work it out, I mean, and the speaking time is 2 minutes per person in total. So we got 27 people, call it 30. Technically, we should be able to do that in 1 hour. But it won't happen like that, because you got changeover time and any other problems or anything. just change over time. You have to get people set themselves up, and so I think it will probably take about 5 minutes per group. So what does that mean? We can do 12 an hour if we are lucky, maybe 10 an hour. So if we've got 20 groups, I don't think we will have 20, but if we had, then it would take 2 hours. Something like that. So I'll allow 5 minutes per group on average. But as I said, it's going to be 2 minutes speaking time per person. And you have 3 choices about the groups. You can do it just 1 person or 2 people or maximum 3 people. So next week, okay, that's the first thing you can decide then. Are you in a group of 1 person, 2 people, or 3 people? They are the choices. If you do it just 1 person, there are pros and cons. Yeah, there are good points and bad points about all of those. If you do it as 1 person, it's easier to practice because you can do it at home. You just look in the mirror and, oh, I didn't put my watch on. You need a watch or a clock that you can easily see, yeah? And you time yourself for 2 minutes and you practice. You cannot read it, so don't write it out, but you might want to write out key points, about 4 key points. You want to do number 1, 2, 3, 4. But don't write out what you're going to say. Practice in front of a mirror or something and time it on a watch or a clock until you've got it down to near 2 minutes. It's a little better to go 10 seconds over 2 minutes than 10 seconds under 2 minutes. So you want to get a good 2 minutes and you practice. You don't memorize exact sentences, but you have the key points and you practice talking about those key points in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2 minutes is not a long time. What's the time now? 1:48. That means I've been speaking for 18 minutes now. Now it's 1:49, 19 minutes. That means 9.5 times what you will have to do. It's not very long, 2 minutes, yeah? You can say a little about your topic. You have to choose a topic. That's another point. So the first step is decide, are you going to do it in 1 or 2 or 3 people together? If it's 1, then you just have 2 minutes. If it's 2, you have 4 minutes total. If it's 3, you have 6 minutes total. So, okay, if you're 1 person, the plus point, the advantage of that is you can practice easily at home before it. You can time yourself, you can work out what you're going to say in the 2 minutes. It's not very long. And practice, and you can be ready for doing it. That's the advantage of being just 1 person. Okay, now let's do the disadvantage, the minus things. The problem with being 1 person is you're going to do it like me, just a monologue, yeah, just me talking. That's what happens on the online class a lot of the time. It will be a lot better when we start real classes next week. So that's the problem with online class. A lot of it is just me speaking, and a lot of it is like this. It's explanation. If you're 1 person, you can just do a monologue, blah, 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 for 2 minutes. So you're just explaining something to another group of people. The problem with that is it's a bit unnatural. Usually we don't do that. When we use language, yeah, usually we have a conversation. I say something to another person, they reply to me. It's usually two people in a conversation. The only situation I can think where one person alone is talking is where, like this in the lecture, and people don't like going to lectures now. Or where else? When somebody's giving orders, like in the army, you have to listen to the boss, or in the company sometimes have to listen to the boss and then pass down the orders. Or if you go to London, what's called Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park in London, and people stand on their soapboxes and they want to say something really important about politics or religion or something, and they will stand there and they will talk for 1 or 2 hours or whatever they want to do. That's called Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park. But that's the only situation usually where we use one person speaking language. And even in Speaker's Corner, people will shout things at them and there will be a bit of a dialogue because people go there to argue. So in real life, it's unnatural. It's actually a bit difficult to do one person in that sense. But as I said, you can prepare for it. The preparation is easier. Okay, so the most natural situation probably is two people. If you do two people together, you can do role play. One person is one person and the other person is a different kind of person. So, for example, you could have a supervisor and an employee, or a customer and some staff member or something, you know, two people in a dialogue situation. That's the most common way that we use language. So that is probably easier to do. But, you know, a lot of it is one person says something or asks a question, the other person replies and says something else. It's a back and forward thing. So, as I said, with two people, I give you 4 minutes. Your main difficulty is you've got to balance it out so that over those 4 minutes, each of the two people speaks for about the same time, about 2 minutes in total. Yeah. So again, you have to, and when you practice that, you have to get together with your partner. I suppose you could do it like this, do a video call on the cell phone, or you could do it like this or on the cell phone, video call, yeah? But still, you have to practice with your partner. Unlike one person, you cannot do it by yourself. So you have to get together and practice before the class. But two people is a bit more natural kind of language, so it might be more helpful. I mean, I would suggest that maybe two people is the best way to do it. But as I say, you have to get together and practice, so that makes it a little more difficult than practicing for the one person. But the language you use is more natural. It's the kind of way we usually talk in a conversation. And think about what roles you're going to do. And I need you to give me a provisional title next week on March the 8th. So think about that as well, the title. Does that cover most of the things I want to say? Not completely, but okay, so you think, order. So we're going to put them in order. I'm going to give you a spreadsheet and it's going to have 5 minutes for each group. Obviously, if you're a group of 3, you need 6 minutes, yeah? I'm hoping there are not too many groups of 3. A group of 3 is actually more difficult to practice for and to do for a number of reasons. The two people together is the usual way that we talk. I mean, we might be together in a group of 3 people, but usually we don't talk as 3 people. If 3 people talk together, then it's just making a noise. Yeah. To make sense, we have to have a conversation, usually just 2 people, and then maybe another person joins and one drops out, and those 2 people, or something like that. And then maybe the other one drops out and those 2 people. So the number of possibilities is kind of 6 pairs, yeah? Well, okay, as pairs, 3 pairs, sorry. So these 2 people could talk, these 2 people could talk, or these 2 people could talk. You got 3 pairs, really, yeah, that could happen. Whereas if it's just 2 people, then you've got 2 pairs, 1 pair, sorry, 1 pair. With 3, the dynamic of the conversation is more difficult, it's less natural, and it's difficult to practice for. Remember, you've got to get those 3 people together. And the most difficult thing is you've got to balance them out. Nearly always, when there's a group of 3 especially, one person will say less. And if they say less, they're going to get a lower mark, yeah? Because the actual speaking time is important. There are, the way I mark it is there are 3 main criteria, what I call the 3 enoughs. So if you, I think in Vietnam, even now, they still study Ho Chi Minh thought, don't they? Do you know Ho Chi Minh thought? So I'm just saying that as I'll tell you why in a second. So Ho Chi Minh had this idea, the 3 togethers. Do you know the 3 togethers? Live together, work together, eat together, or something like that, yeah? So by analogy, I'm just talking about the 3 enoughs, just so you can remember it's something analogously related. The 3 enoughs, this is how I'm going to mark the speaking test, by the 3 enoughs. And the 3 enoughs are this: you have to speak loud enough, clear enough, and long enough. I mean, that's important in any kind of speaking anyway, because the other person you're talking with or talking to, I think in Britain we usually say you talk to someone. In America they say you talk with someone. Those prepositions are all silly. Yeah? You have to learn them by examples, with and to and on and at and all of that. Oh, the 3 enoughs. So number 1, loud enough. You have, and that's the problem with my computer for the video stuff, the online stuff. It used to work much better. I was using it 3 months ago and I could hear very well, but now that it's quite old, it's about 6 years old now. Now the speaker decided to go a bit goo goo gaga, decided to not to work very well. So it's a little difficult for me to hear, not because my hearing is bad. I mean, my eyesight is bad, it's always been bad, but my hearing is kind of okay, I think. But the speaker on this computer is not okay. So so please try to speak loud enough on when you say something here. But that's important, you know, if you're talking to someone, they have to be able to hear you. You have to speak loud enough. Otherwise, we cannot communicate. So that's important when you do the speaking test. I mean, obviously, I'm marking you. I have to hear you. So try to practice. How do you practice speaking loud enough? Any ideas? You can do a breathing exercise, deep breathing. Okay, breathe in, hold it a little, breathe out. Do that 20 times. Deep breathing exercises, and voila, as the French might say, you will be able to speak louder, because improve your breathing will improve your speaking. Yeah. So that's one way. I mean, the other way is you just practice speaking louder. You can do it if you try. So you need to, that's the number one enough. You need to speak loud enough. Number two, you need to speak, I say clear enough. It's probably better grammar if I say clearly enough. You need to speak clearly enough so that not just I can hear that you are saying something, but I can hear exactly what you are saying. Just for example, I'll give you one example. I went for an interview about 6 or 7 years ago at some institute, and there was some old security man outside this institute. So he saw me, and maybe he thinks he's about the same age as me. So he tried to talk to me, yeah. But remember, even then I was a little old. So he tried to talk to me, and he said something like, "How old are you? How are you?" Something like that. So it took me a little while, and he said it 3 or 4 times. "How are you?" Can you understand what I'm saying?
Is that how are you?
Say that again.
Is that like how are you? Yeah, I just
not
heard
quite.
it.
How are you?
How old are you? I think.
Yes.
How old are you?
But he didn't say how old are you. He said something like, "How are you?" Because you remember, he's about my age, or maybe even a little older. But so when he studied English, he only studied with, in the old system, they only had Vietnamese people to teach them. And still, the students, including you, make a lot of systematic errors that I can spot, or some systematic errors. So, pronunciation was not good a few years ago. So maybe when he went to school 30 or 40 years ago, the pronunciation was very bad. So, it was difficult to learn English. So he couldn't say the words clearly, because nobody had ever taught him how to say them clearly. The best way he could say, "How old are you?" is something like, "How are you?" or something like that, yeah? So that's the number two enough. I mean, the thing that I complain about, for example, I still get it for students. They cannot say the verb to be. They cannot say is or was. Do you know that? 90% of Vietnamese students say it or what. They can't say is, was. They don't say the verb to be clearly at all. They say, "My name is Nicholas," not "My name is Nicholas," because they don't know how to say is. That's one of the common systematic errors. There are other ones as well, but that's because they don't teach clear speaking. Because the people who teach it do not know it very well themselves, because they've learnt it as a second, third language when to become a teacher of English or something, yeah? But they don't actually have very good pronunciation themselves, and they don't know how to teach good pronunciation. So that's a weak point here and in other Asian countries. But there are systematic errors that people make a lot. Oh, the other one is about the plurals. Yeah, I have this one finger. These are two fingers, but you know, Vietnamese people might say two finger, three finger, four finger. They don't say the S. I don't understand that, because it's not difficult, but you have to learn how to say s, fingers, cups, computers. So that's another very, very, very common systematic error, because they don't teach good pronunciation. So that's a point that you need to pay attention to when you are doing the speaking test. Number one, it's got to be loud enough, but number two, it's got to be clear enough. You have to speak clearly enough. And that's important. And how can you do that? Well, that's why I'm pointing out those kind of systematic errors. Pay attention to the verb to be. My name is Nicholas. Yesterday I was in the coffee shop or something, you know, and the S's, I had 2 cups of coffee. I said 10 words. You need the S's, the S sound, and all the other stuff that goes with good elocution. So, okay, what could you do? You could look up some of those words on the internet, and usually on the dictionary they have a sound. You can play it on the, if you have a computer, you can play it and you can hear the sound and listen carefully, or learn to listen carefully for those kind of points. So pronunciation is important because it carries, you know, some meaning, and the pronunciation even now is not very good. It's a little bit better than my security man I was talking about a few minutes ago, but it's especially those kind of systematic errors cause problems. And the last point, long enough, you have to speak for long enough. So in groups of 3, it's usually the case that one person speaks more than the other 2, or one person speaks less than the other 2. If they're speaking more, usually they get a higher mark. If they're speaking less, usually they get a lower mark. So the trick is you have to balance it out. And it's not that easy to do, because as I mentioned, there are 3 pairs. Yeah, there are, when you've got a group of 3, there are these 2, there are these 2, and across the top there are these 2. And so you've actually got to put 3 conversations together, equal, to give each person equal time. And that's more difficult than doing it in pairs. So I don't actually recommend doing it in 3s, but you can if you want to. Usually people do it because one person is not very good at speaking and they think, oh, my friends will help me. But what actually happens is they speak less and they get a lower mark, and then they say, oh, why is my mark lower than the others? And that's because they didn't speak as much as the others. And it's not easy. You have to balance it out. When you're doing a group of 3, there are 3 pairs. So there are actually 3 different conversations you need to put together and balance them out. Can you understand what I'm saying about that? So that's important. You need to speak loud enough, clear enough, and long enough. And there's one other thing. Okay, we're going to put them in order for 2 hours from 2:30 to 4:30. How are you going to decide what the order is? because I had this problem years ago, and nobody wants to go first. Not going first. Everybody wants to go last. But you can't all go last. So what can I do? So here's the answer. I'll give you an incentive. I don't know whether the supervisors will like this, but it's a practical one and it works. If you go first, if you go at 2:30, you know, and you do your 2 minutes a person, when you've finished, you can go home or go anywhere you want to. You can leave the room. That's the incentive, okay? Go home 2 hours early. Maybe don't tell the supervisor. But anyway, that's the practical way that works. So, you know, you go second, then after about 6, 7, 8 minutes, you can go home, finish. That's the incentive to go earlier. So next week, I'm going to get you to write down your names in boxes in order, and that will give you a time, yeah? So actually what I'll do is I'll write out about 20 groups and give 5-minute intervals. Obviously, if it's a group of 3, you're going to have 6 minutes, but hopefully there won't be too many groups of 3. Group of 1, it should only take 2 minutes, but then change over time is probably about 2 minutes. So it will be something like that. I'll put groups, blocks of up to 20. If we have more, then I just add a few, but it shouldn't, they're not usually more than 20 groups. Shouldn't be for this class. Because even if you do it in pairs, what are you, 27 students or something like that? So even in pairs, you're only going to make 13, 14 groups. And still one odd one, yeah. So I think 20 groups is enough. So put your name down. It will have a time. That will be your approximate time that you're going to do the test. One more point. I don't want you talking in the class while I'm doing the test because it's noisy. So if you want to talk, please go outside the classroom. Don't talk in the class except when you're actually doing the test. That's one more thing. But you know, you have an approximate time, and that's when your test will be, approximately. And when you are finished, you can go home. And I want you to go home, or you know, go to another room, because I don't want, as I just said, I don't want you to talk in the class. So if you want to talk, go outside. And when you are finished, you can just go wherever you want to go. That's the incentive to do it and then go home or whatever. Does that make sense? So at the end, I should only have 2 or 3 people left over, and then we finish up and that's it. And then I'll send out the marks. So if you send me an email, then I've got your email address. I can send you the marks and you can send it to the others. Is that okay? I don't know who is, do you have a class monitor or leader or anything? Do you have one? Who is your class monitor? But maybe I can send it to you and you send it to the others or something like that. Yeah. Just to let you know what's going on. But they are the 3 criteria, yeah? I mark it, you have to be loud enough. It doesn't mean you have to shout, but it has to be loud enough so I can hear it, yeah? Has to be clear enough, you have to speak clearly so I can hear the words. So elocution, the pronunciation is important. And long enough, it has to be 2 minutes in total per person. So you need to balance it with any group of 2 or 3, and 3 is more difficult. You have to balance it out. So in total, people talk for an equal amount of time, yeah. And I think that's my, is there anything I missed out there? Any questions about that? As you can see, now it says 2:16. It takes me nearly 50 minutes to explain that, which is about 25 of your talks. So if we did it continuously, then it would be about 50 minutes. And I've done it fairly fast because I did it again before yesterday with the bigger group, so I'm doing a similar thing. So did I cover everything? So for next week, I want you to write two things. I want you to write your name, and then there'll be groups. As I said, I'll make up 20 groups. Each group will have a possible 3 people. If you're only doing it by yourself, then you just write your name in the top box. And if you like, you can just put a dash through the other 2 boxes. That's so you have to write your name, full name, as it is in the attendance, and a provisional title. Oh, I haven't told you that. That's why it's not 50 minutes yet. I have to tell you how to get a provisional title. Let's do that. That's the one thing I missed out. How do you get a provisional title? Well, what can the title be? It can be anything in the book or anything else related to business English. So here is the book. Can you see that? Oh, it's just doing it. Okay. Here is the book. So what you can do is you look at the start of the book here. That's the start of the book. Look at the contents page. There's a little bit tells you about the modules. There are 6 modules in each unit. Oh, and by the way, the first module explains some of the general idea. And then we have vocabulary, grammar, speaking, writing. So notice that they are nearly my 4 skills, yeah? Listening, reading, writing, speaking. But okay, here grammar means reading, maybe. It does have a reading anyway. So at the beginning, there's a general introduction. At the end, there's a case study. So actually, that's what I'll do for next week. I'll give you some suggested titles. I have to write them out, and I'll put them on I'll do about 12, but based on mostly on the case study work, because the case study is an example of the general theme. And because we actually do these at some point in the class, in the course, you can use those, for example, as a possible practice. You don't have to do the case studies, but it gives you examples. You can look at the general theme and get some ideas. So have a look at the contents page here. Can you see that? Yeah. So you remember at the beginning we did about general business stuff. I mean, you could do something about business organization. That would be kind of one-person style thing. You could do about accounting, profit and loss things, or even better, you could do about CVs and cover letters and what you should do to apply for a job. That is actually number 4, unit 4. We're going to do interviews, and that's a good one. So you could do about doing your CV, your resume and cover letter. How can you do a good one? How can you apply, or how can you find a good job, or what is a good job for you as a person? That's actually I found it to be a difficult question. Is that another person? Yeah. You know, when I was 5 years old, when I was 4 years old, I wanted to be a train driver. When I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a truck driver because I saw these big trucks. And then I had other ideas, which actually I forget. When I was in what you call middle school, they had a careers officer, and he said to me I should be a policeman. I can remember that because I thought it's such a stupid idea. Because why? Because I always had bad eyesight, so I cannot see anything. I never had a driving license, for example. Yeah, I cannot drive a motorcycle or a car or anything else, or a truck or a train. So that's the first problem. Police officers need to have a driving license. Plus, I'm too short. I was always, in England, I was always the shortest boy in the class. You know, and to be a police officer, there's a height requirement. I don't know what it is now. Probably about 180 centimeters in the units they use here. And I was only at maximum 164. I'm probably only 162 now, because people shrink a bit as they get older, or they lose whatever. We lose bone, what they call that, cartilage. Yeah, we lose bits and pieces anyway. So anyway, I was too short. I had bad eyesight. I mean, I could have worked in the kind of technical side of police work, like they have the whatever it is office, but it wasn't a very good suggestion. And my mother said I should be a teacher, and I didn't want to do that at all. Actually, it was the only sensible suggestion. So maybe you should listen to your mother. But I didn't listen to my mother. There's a good story in Korean about the frog that didn't listen to its mother. That's a good story. But I didn't listen to my mother then. So I ended up studying engineering simply because I was good at maths. And anyway, boys study engineering. I talk to them here. And girls study to be nurses or something, yeah, usually. But I hated engineering. I worked in the factory. So I studied science because I was interested in the sky. I wanted to be an astronomer. But of course, that's too difficult. I couldn't do that. So I had a friend, and he had a little kind of private school in London. So I worked there for a couple of years and taught these foreign students English and computer skills. I wasn't very good at computing, but I was good at maths, so I tried to do it. And I talked about him. You know, Mr. Sugiyama advertised in England in the newspaper, and I had a physics degree by then, so 200 people applied, and he said, okay, I can go and work in Japan. Because he had written his book, his theory of the universe. He needed someone to help him translate it. I got physics degree and an engineering degree. So I worked for him. He was a bit crazy, but it gave me some experience, which, you know, experience is important. You get experience, you can get a better job usually. So why am I talking about that? Okay, because if you look in the book, you get some ideas. Okay, and the most important one in the introduction, before Unit 1, the introductory section called Business Fundamentals, the most important thing is CVs, resumes, and cover letter. So in your work life, if you're like me, I've probably had about 30 jobs or so, maybe more than 30. I've had 10 jobs in Vietnam, and I've only been here 8 years, because they like to chop and change. But in Korea, I only had a few jobs. The last one, I worked there for 8 years in Suwon Science College. That was an easy job. But I had to come here. And so in your lifetime, you can easily do 30, maybe 40 different jobs. So one of the most important things you will ever do in your life is to write a resume and a CV and a cover letter and learn interview skills, because you're going to have to do 30 or 40 jobs in your life. So you need to know how to find a job, you need to know how to apply, you need to know what to say in an interview. That is possibly the most important thing, or let's call it the second most important thing in your life. Do you know the most important thing? I say second because I just thought of the most important thing. So when I was 4 years old, because at that time in England, we started elementary school at four and a half, yeah, before I was 5, because they didn't have kindergarten at that time. So we had elementary school from about 4 and a bit until you were 11. So when I was 4.5 years old, we had this teacher, and she told us the most important word you will ever know in your life, when I was 4.5. And she wrote it on the board, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I memorized it. I had no idea what the word meant, because it was a difficult word. Then I was only 4.5. I didn't learn what it meant until I was about 9 or 10 years old. And I went out and I bought a dictionary. And the first thing I did was look up this word in the dictionary. And I remembered it because the teacher had said, it's the most important word you will ever learn in your life. So I didn't understand what the word was until I was about 9 or 10. And then I realized, oh, that's what it means. Any idea what the most important word you'll ever know is? Maybe teachers don't, well, maybe they do. Most of my teachers were useless, but we did have 1 or 2 teachers who were good like that, because it is quite an important word. Begins with P. How many letters does it have? Wait a minute. I think it has 11 letters. So, you know, at 4.5, we don't know words which have 11 letters. Do you know what the word is? Begins with P, P-E-R, S-E-V, E-R-A-N-C-E. Perseverance. You know, when I'm 4.5, even if somebody had told me, I wouldn't have understood the word. But I remembered it simply because the teacher said, this word is the most important word you will ever learn in your life. And it was true. That's why I remember it now, because that word is certainly one of the most important words you will ever know. Do you know what perseverance means? Maybe you don't know the word. It's a difficult word, yeah? What is it in Vietnamese? I've looked it up before and forgotten. But it's an important word. It is an important word. Yeah, just a second. Google Translate says Kien Chi. How do they say that? Kianchi. Kianchi. So it means similar to persistence, perseverance. That means that you try to do something and you don't give up. That's how you become like Elon Musk, or what's his name, Jeff Bezos, or any of those guys. Well, number one, you have to be lucky. Not everybody can be them. But number two, you need to have perseverance. So you keep trying to do something, you know, and you fail, and you fail, and you fail, but you still keep trying to do it. And that's important in your life. If you give up, then your effort is just wasted. But if you don't give up, if you keep trying, you will find, if you might not find the thing that you wanted to find, but you will find something else along the way. But the only way you can do that is by keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. I mean, for example, you want to be good at English, it's all about practice. Practice makes perfect. So, you know, I'm not very good at languages, or I'm kind of average. We had to study French for 5 years. I got reasonably good at that when I was 16. Spanish 1 year. I went to Japan, as I said, with Sugiyama. That was stressful, but I learned Japanese fast and passed the intermediate level at Tokyo University in the proficiency test. And I did the same with Korean about 12 years later in Inha University. And I'm trying to do for Tiếng Việt. Vietnamese sounds are difficult for me because they have the tones and the blah blahs. The writing is fairly easy. Japanese is the opposite. Yeah, the writing is difficult. Plus they use the old style Chinese characters. It's more difficult than Chinese. And in Chinese, they just have one word, one sound usually. Well, they do have homonyms, so, but they only usually have, for one character, they usually only have one sound, yeah? But in Japanese, if you take the common ones, like the one for up, you know, the character for up. In Japanese, well, in Chinese, they say shang, like Shanghai, yeah? Means, up the river or something, yeah? That character in Japanese, it has 14 common ways to pronounce it. Like ue is the Japanese one, and Zhou is the Sino-Japanese one, and they have 14 common different ways to pronounce the same character. So you have to look at it in context in order to think, how do I say that? Because there are 14, and the one for down has also about 12 common ways to say it. You have to see everything in context and look at it, and then you can think, oh, so we say that like that. If you are clever, sometimes you just can't guess it even. Japanese is a funny language. So the writing is difficult, but the sounds are very, very easy. A, I, U, A, O, ka, ki, ku, ken, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so. It's very easy sound. So the important point about the introduction is that you need to know about CV, resume, cover letter, and interview, because you'll do that at least 30 times in your life. So that's an important skill. And you need that word, perseverance, because you have to keep trying. Even if you fail, okay, you send out 100 letters, I've done this, and get no response. So what do? You send out 200 letters. You send out 300 letters. You send out 1,000 letters. You send out 10,000 letters. And if you do that, you will get a response. But it takes effort, yeah? So that's important. How to find a job, how to apply, how to do an interview. And the interview actually comes in Unit 4. I'm not sure whether we'll actually do that before the speaking test, but anyway, you can look at it. And if you look at it, you'll be able to do that for speaking. it's a good idea. It helps you to look at the book, if nothing else. So the speaking is a good idea. So look at the contents, look at the words in the contents, and any of these phrases might give you an idea for what you want to do. Especially look at the beginning and the end. So Unit 1, it tells you what we're doing, internships abroad. So that's another good topic. That's actually the case study, isn't it? Internships. And they do an example in China. You don't have to do in China, but you can do anything. So you could do about an internship, yeah? That's a good example. I'll write these out for next week as examples. So internships, that's a good one. Apart from applying for jobs and so on and interviews, internships. Number 2 is, which we might get on to today, customer satisfaction, and including presentations. Presentations is a good word there as well. And go to the end of Unit 2 and the case study. Oh, that's a good one. So think about presentations. Their case study for number 2 is a rock tour, you know, like the music band. And usually there's a tour manager. So I think in this you become a tour manager, and you deal with the kind of things that could be problems. That is a kind of presentation. When you're thinking about presentations, it could be something inside a company where you give a presentation about some other company or about the company's performance or something. Yeah, you say something that has some technical information in it inside a company. Another kind of presentation, which they don't actually do in this book, is, for example, a tour guide. You're a tour guide, you show people around. That's a presentation outside, and people might ask you questions. The trouble is, in Vietnam, people might not ask you questions, yeah? But if you get Americans in that group, and for example, you're a Vietnamese tour guide, I guarantee you some of them will ask questions. I went on a really good tour guide in Japan once. In Osaka, was it? Yeah, it was in Osaka, yeah? And there was one American, we were on the bus going around, there was one American, he hated Japanese people. So the tour guide was explaining things and he'd interrupt him all these times and he'd start talking about the evil things they did in the war. And he was shouting at this man and so on. So actually I tried to help the tour guide out a bit because I could speak Japanese pretty well by then and I could explain some things, and we could cut the American out a bit who was causing all the trouble. I mean, you don't get that in Vietnam much because people are not so argumentative here. They don't have such strong opinions. But if you're going to be a tour guide and show Americans or Europeans around, people from France, they'll argue just as much. You need to know how to respond in that kind of situation. So actually, that if you can do a difficult customer, that could be a good presentation. I'm not sure you can do it easily because you might not be familiar, but you can imagine what kind of things they would say and cause problems and something. Just to give you an idea. That's just the first 2 that we will have done. We might do number 3. Oh, number 3 is about products and process. It's about supply chain. Supply chain means from you have a good that's made in a factory, a product. So it's about from the factory to the retail or even beyond the retail. That's supply chain. It's getting the product from the factory to the sales shop and even beyond that, because customer service which we're doing maybe today. I'm not sure we'll get that far. But customer service goes on for some time. Yeah, it's not just even when you sell the product, but you need to support the product if there is some problems. Yeah, and there are problems quite often. So supply chain management, that's number 3. Number 4 is a good one, getting a job. As I said, you know, doing an interview, that's a skill that you need to have. Because if you're anything like me, you'll have at least 30 jobs in your life. You need to know how to find a job, how to apply, how to present yourself, how to answer questions in an interview. Number 4 is a good topic. And I've forgotten what case studies they do for that. So, okay. So number 3 is some kind of presentation, yeah, relating to factory organization. So it could be an internal presentation or an external presentation like the tour guide, or just a conversation even between people. For example, you are 2 or 3 people, you're going to a place you haven't been to before. One person might know something about it, he can say something, you can ask some questions, you can have a conversation about somewhere you're going to that you don't know well. That kind of thing you could do for number 3 as well. And then number 4 is a good topic, yeah? Job search. How do you find a job? How do you get a job? What do you do in an interview? How do you answer questions? You need to know that. It's the most important skill you'll learn possibly, yeah? Especially in Vietnam, because Vietnam is a bit choppy changey type country. So you need to know how to get a job and maybe how to keep a job and what to do in the interview anyway. And then, you know, 5 is about marketing and selling. How do we market a product? That's a practical thing. Advertising and marketing, yeah. What do they do for the case study? Well, I'll write these things down. It's a marketing plan for a new car, but it could be any kind of product, yeah. New product. How do we sell it? How do we market it? Entrepreneurship, number 6. If you want to be rich and famous, you have to be an entrepreneur to some extent. You know, if you want to be American style business person, you have to be an entrepreneur. Although it's actually a French word. So, okay, French style or American style. So if you want to be like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or who are those other ones, the older ones now, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs has passed on, yeah? He died rather early. But any of those famous name people, so you need to know entrepreneurial skills. And the case study for the entrepreneur is, I think, a startup business or something, isn't it? So how do you start a company, yeah? Number 6 is how do you start a company? And it's more difficult than you might think. Yeah, you need to put a number of things together. How do you start a company? And then number 7, I'm telling you in advance, is how do you sell a company? Or actually number 7 is about what they call it management consulting. So downsizing, sometimes we need to do downsizing or selling off a company or something, yeah? So number 6, how do you start a company? Number 7, how do you sell off a company? And related management consulting problems to do with downsizing and other things. Expanding is one thing, but contracting is another thing. Naturally, companies do sometimes get smaller or bigger. Hopefully, if you're staying, you want it to get bigger. But if it's getting smaller, then you want to know how to sell it. That's the number 7 topic, okay? So we need to know about entrepreneurship. Number 7 is about management consultancy. And then number 8 is the global cultures. There are different cultures around the world. So the case study is about franchise business, an international franchise. So usually franchises have a different marketing policy in different countries. So for example, when I go big shopping every 2 weeks, I go to Lotte Mart in District 7. So it has nice things that I can buy, because I lived in Korea a long time. So, you know, Lotte Mart has Korean stuff like ginseng tea and, I mean, good ginseng tea and things like that I like to buy, or makgeolli, which is a kind of drink, and things like that. But it's marketed to the Vietnam market, obviously. So they have Vietnamese things and they have Korean things, and they have some Japanese things, and because actually Lotte was started in Japan by a Japanese Korean. So they have a lot of things which are good for me. But you know, every franchise business has its own style, and they vary that style in different cultures. So you could do something about cultural factors or other individual factors, international problems. That's unit 8. Yeah. So what you can do is look at the words there in those 2 pages of the introduction and pick out some things that you think would be interesting, especially the beginning, which is general, and the end, which is the case study, which is an example. You might be able to think of your own examples. Any other problem in business English? And I think that really does cover what I want to cover. Any questions about that? How long has that taken me? 1 hour and 18 minutes. Just talking about what we're going to do next week, which is a preparation for what we are actually going to do in the speaking test on March 15. But next week, I want you to fill in your name, and that will be the time of your presentation, and give me a provisional title, you know, just a general title, so I have some idea what you're going to be talking about. Any questions about what we're going to do next week? It's important because that's the speaking test. It's a test of your ability to speak, to use English orally. In English, they have 2 orals. Yeah, they have ORAL, which is to do with the mouth, and they have AURAL, which is to do with the ear. So you need to, speaking, you need to be able to listen and speak together. That's why I say the pairs are a good idea. If you can get together with a partner, you can do conversation. That's the most natural kind of English. But I'm quite happy if you want to do it one person. Each group, you'll have three lines. If you're doing one person, just write one name and put a line through the other 2. And that will be, you'll be group number, whatever it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 20. That will be okay. 1s or 2s, I'm just giving you a little bit of a warning that 3 is more difficult. Because 3, in fact, you're combining 3 different conversations and you're trying to balance them out. So it's 3 times more difficult than just 2 people. And if you do 4, then it's multiple times too difficult. That's why I say 4 is no good. Can't do it. So preferably 1s or 2s. 2s is probably the best way to do it. If you want to do it in 3s, you can, but be warned about the problems. Any questions about that? Anybody got a question? Because I'm going to ask you to do it next week, so go ahead and ask. Anybody want to say something?
Yes. So, teacher, are we going to do the only talking? We only have a topic related to business. Only can we have another topic outside, or we can only have the topic on?
Well, you know, this course is called Business English, yeah? I mean, most things are related to business, so not everything. But, you know, most of our life is to do with shopping, or that's a lot of my life, shopping or some kind of transaction. I go to work on the bus, so that's a kind of business, transport. So it should have some relation to business activities. But it can be something in the book, or it can be something not in the book, as long as it's related to some kind of business activity. And business is
yes, because there's one
to live, yeah.
Yeah, because there's one listening in Unit 2 or something. I remember that they have a meeting in Berlin, something like that, and these people meeting here, and they share about they have to work on different country, and it's quite good, and also they share about experience while living in this country. I think it's not really a lot about the business. They use a lot of business language or word a lot. But they have it in the book. So is it okay to talk to kind of like we just sharing about visiting another country, like go study abroad or going abroad, something like that?
Yeah, that's okay. As you said, it is in Unit 2, and it's also related to the last one, Unit 8, which is about international cultures. So especially these days, I remember, so I've talked about some things that mothers, you should listen to your mother, because sometimes your mother knows things about you that you don't know, which is what I found out, because she said I should be a teacher, and I hated that idea. And then 30 years later, I became a teacher. But but another thing my mother said, you know, because in her days, for example, I said, I don't know what I'm doing with my life or something. And she said, well, in my days, you just got married to the person down the street. Because, you know, she knew I was going to do different things and go to other countries. And I didn't have the opportunity, or I wasn't going to get married to the person down the street. So I ended up getting married in Vietnam some 15 years ago, yeah. So that's an important point. So now we learn about other cultures. We go to other countries. We move around. We don't just stay in the same place. It used to be the case in the UK, you could tell the village a person was from by their accent. Because, you know, people would grow up, they would die in the same place. Like Immanuel Kant, the philosopher, he was born in Königsberg, he always lived in Königsberg, he died in Königsberg. People would just stay in the village they were born in their whole life. But with the advent of transport, public transport, and, you know, the trains and buses and cars, obviously, people moved around. And in the recent years, especially this century, especially the last 60 or 70 years, people are, and especially from the 20th century, the historian A.J.P. Taylor said the most important thing in the 20th century was the airplane. He was a historian in England. Airplanes people traveled all over the world. I mean, they did that before in ships, yeah, but it was a lot more difficult in ships. It would take months or a year to go somewhere. But airplanes, you can go all over the world, yeah. And now, of course, Elon Musk wants people to go to Mars and different planets. But okay, but transport. So we can see, we interact with different cultures. So that's an important topic. In the old days, 200 years ago, people didn't mix with different cultures. So in the UK, you go to one town, to one village, they had a different accent. When I went to London, they said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from East Anglia in Colchester, North Essex." And they didn't believe me. They said, "No, you're not. You're South African, you're Australian." Because the East Anglian accent has rather flat vowels, yeah, like the A and the E, and it's not the same as RP, received pronunciation in Southeast and London. So they didn't believe me I was even from England, because my accent is, you know, at that time anyway, was a bit countryside, and they say, "How are you, boy, and what are you doing there?" And it does sound a little bit like South African or Australian. So
teacher?
Now that's not so much the case, because we study about all different cultures and people go to different countries and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you can do that. That topic is part of business, knowing about other cultures. Yes, question.
Also, do we have to prepare slides for the presentation?
No.
Okay.
2 minutes. 2 minutes is a short time. So you don't have time for any of that. And the important thing, which maybe you missed because I'm talking so much, you don't write it down. You don't write it down what you're going to say. You don't try to memorize sentences. Don't do that. That's not how you do a talk. You write down 3 or 4 or 5 main points and you memorize them. Just number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. That's it. That's all the memorization you do. But then you have to practice. So you know what number 1 is. So practice talking about it. Do 4 or 5 sentences about number 1. Okay, number 2. 4 or 5 sentences, number 2, number 3. Practice. Number 4, practice. You don't write anything down. You don't read it. In the speaking test, you're not allowed to do reading. No smartphones, no bits of paper. I mean, you could write down the 4 points, but I think you can remember that. That's what you memorize. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I'm going to talk about. That's all you memorize, just the key points, and only about 3, 4, or 5. But you don't memorize anything else. You don't have anything to read from. We don't have time for slideshows. 2 minutes is a short time, yeah? Yeah, it's 3. I have to do the attendance, don't I, at 3 o'clock? It's 3 o'clock, so for the last 1.5 hours, it's been mostly just me talking mostly about what we're going to prepare for next week for the actual test, which is the week after next, yeah? That's 1.5 hours of stuff. 2 minutes is very, very short. It's just a few sentences. If you did write it out, it'd only be about 1 page. If you typed it, maybe 1 and a bit pages. How many words is that? 200 or 300, 300 maybe. How many seconds in 2 minutes? 1 minute is 60, only 120 seconds. Can you say 2 words a second? Not really. So I doubt it's more than 200 words, maybe 250. But remember, you've got to be clear. And you cannot be clear if you speak very fast, yeah? If you say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, can you say that? Can you repeat what I just said? It comes from Mary Poppins film from the 1960s. And it's a song, actually, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, blah, 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 must be quite atrocious. And it's a song, I forget all the words, but that's a long word. It doesn't have any meaning at all. It's a made-up word, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. But it's part of that song, and that's a long word, yeah? So you're not going to say many words, and you have to say, I said that because I'm saying if you talk very fast, if you talk very, very fast, then nobody's going to understand what you're saying. To be clear, you also have to say it fairly slowly. I mean, not too slowly so people go to sleep, but you have to say it clearly. And that means you cannot go very fast. So maybe you can do 200 words or something. I doubt you'll do much more than 200 words. 1 page of typed stuff on A4, yeah? If you type it on A4, it's only about 1 page. So, you know, we don't have time for stuff. And anyway, slideshows would be a distraction. We don't have time for it. And it's not the purpose of the thing. The purpose of the thing is, can you speak English about some topic without reading? It's not a reading test, so you cannot read it. So don't try to memorize it. When people give speeches, usually, if it's a good speech, they don't write it all out and read it. I'm going to talk about this and that. And then they read it. If you're reading, that's not really speaking. I mean, it is speaking, but it's boring for one thing. To make something interesting, to be an interesting speaker, you don't memorize sentences, and certainly not paragraphs. You write down the key points and you practice what you're going to talk about, how you're going to say it. You don't actually memorize every word, so every time you practice, it's a bit different. When you actually do it, it's going to be a bit different. That doesn't matter. The important thing is you've got some key points, you're going to talk about them. 2, 3, 4 key points. So that's your guideline, and that's why you have to practice before. So that's why I'm saying if it's difficult to meet your friend, if you don't have a friend, and some students, I mean, I was a bit like this, I don't mix so easily with people. So you might want, because I'm a bit, more introverted than extroverted. So you might want to do it by yourself if you are such a person. That's okay. You can do it by yourself. Just practice with yourself. Look at the clock, the watch, 2 minutes, or better to do 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Yeah? Try to do 2 minutes or just over. If you do much more, I'm going to cut you off because too much time. You've only got a short time, so just practice and do the 4 key points, and that's it. So no, you don't need to prepare anything else, and you don't need to write it out. Don't try to do that. But you can have an idea what you're going to say, and you have an idea by writing out the key points and then maybe writing a few other words. You can't actually use that when you do the speaking, but when you are practicing, you could write out a few more words. But don't try to learn whole sentences, and certainly not paragraphs. If you do it like that, it becomes tedious, and that's not how good speakers speak. They have ideas. We are not computers. If we were robots, this is the thing about artificial intelligence. This is the thing about chess playing robots. Like a game, like chess or something. They can program it all to be even cleverer than most grandmasters. But if the grandmasters know the program, sometimes they can still beat the computer because they do things which the computer is not programmed to understand. Yeah. So there's that machine way of doing things where you focus on the individual bits of everything. But that's not actually how people work. We are not computers. We are not machines. We work by ideas and by association. So what you want to do when you are speaking is have you memorize the key points, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are the main ideas you're going to talk about. And connected to those ideas, okay, number one, what are you going to do for number one? Oh, I've got this and this and this to talk about number one. So by association, you've practiced and you get in 1, 2, 3 points to do with number one. Same thing with number two. What am I going to talk about for number two? Oh, this and this and this. Those 3 things are for number two. And then number 3, 3 things. Number 4, 3 things. It's all by association. Machines, computers, they cannot do that. That's why artificial intelligence, some people say, oh, it's going to replace people. I don't think so. Because people are not machines. We work by ideas, by association, not by just fitting things digitally into little boxes like machines do, or not even like machines use algorithms and they churn out the algorithm, put the data in and use the algorithm. Some people do that now to play the stock market. But you know what's happened to the stock market recently with the war in Ukraine? Boom. The algorithm cannot tell you the stock market's going to go boom, or that 1 Russian ruble is now less than 1 US cent. No algorithm can tell you that. But if you work with ideas, you can see, oh, something's going wrong. The Simpsons predicted there will be a conflict between Russia and the Ukraine 25 years ago. Yeah, the Simpsons are good at that because there's a lot of ideas going on there and they're playing with association, what could happen and so on. We can actually see things that way that machines can never see. So we're using bigger things than the machines can do. The machines can do lots of little things and they can use rules to churn them out. But they cannot do what we do. We work with ideas, and ideas are kind of complex, but they include little things, all associations, yeah? So remember your key points, 1, 2, 3, 4, then maybe you got 3 or 4 associated things you have to cover for each of the key points, and it's joined together like a kind of cloud like that. That's how we work as people. So when you prepare to do a speaking, remember your key points. And if you've practiced, automatically, when you get to number 1, your brain will think, oh, subsection 1, 2, 3, we've got those associations with number 1. Then number 2, oh, we got 3 more associations. Number 2, number 3, oh, we got 2 things important there. Number 4, okay, we got 2 things important there. Automatically, you will associate things by practicing. That's what we do when we practice. Okay? So easier to practice by yourself. But if you do it in pairs, you get more natural conversations. So the kind of English is made sometimes better in pairs, or you can do conversation, and you cannot easily do conversation as such with ones. But be careful if you do more than 2, because it becomes complex. The interperson dynamics become complex when you do more than 2. Does that explain? Oh, that's 1 hour, 40 minutes now. Does that explain enough? So think about that. You need to decide how you're going to do it. Are you going to do it 1 person, 2 people, or 3 people? You need to have a provisional title, some kind of phrase that's related to the book or related to business English, including international cultures, because that's part of business now. As I mentioned, Lotte Mart was started by Korean Japanese in Japan. Sometimes people who are from different cultures can have new ideas and can contribute to business culture. So it's a good idea to know about different cultures, what's going on, because again, that's how people work. We work with ideas and associations and that kind of thing. Is that enough to introduce what you should think about for next week? Because I'm going to give you a spreadsheet on my computer and you can type in your name, whatever group you're in. So you need to know, are you going to do 1, 2 or 3 people? You need to have an idea about a general topic. Write down your topic, write down your full name, put it in some box. There'll be 20 boxes. I'll give you more boxes if you need it, but I think 20 will easily be enough. This is not a big class, not very big class. Any questions about that? So can I do the attendance now? And then we'll do a little bit from the book. Is everybody here? How many we got? 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 27. And I think that's the correct number of people in our class because one dropped out, didn't she? So I think 27 is probably correct. So let me do the attendance and then we'll do a little bit from the book. Because I think I'm okay for time for you. That's why I'm not worried that I have spent 1 hour, 40 minutes just talking about next week, when next week itself is only a preparation for the week after. But I do want you to write down your name next week. So in the case like, what's her name, Chan and Gwyn Kanglen, if you are not here next week, get your friend to write your name or send me an email because, you know, I might forget. So send me an email to tell me you can't be here because of blah, blah, blah. And then I'll put you present and then I'll remember that I need to write your name. But I don't know where to write your name. So you need to explain to the friend, are you going to work in a pair? If you're going to do it in a pair, then that's easy. Your friend can just write your name together with their name and write the topic, yeah? If you could get a friend to write the name and the topic, you have to tell them what topic you want to do. Like that, okay? So, okay, let's do the attendance. And any other questions, any problems? Any things you're not sure about? Speaking is important. It's a productive skill. It's one of the 2 productive skills, speaking and writing. And to be good at speaking and writing, we have to do reading and listening, or sorry, in the same order. We have to do listening and reading, yeah? Because those receptive skills are kind of precursor to the productive skills, or a lot of the time. So when you're a baby, you know, the baby spends about 1 year doing listening, and then they start talking, yeah, when they're about 1 year old. They can say mama, dada, or whatever it is, yeah, or ba or bo, whatever it is. So, you know, we do listening, then we do speaking. And when the baby is 3 years old or 4 years old, they might learn some reading and writing. Well, they won't do writing until they're older, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, yeah? So it's kind of in that order, it's like that. But now, it's important for you to know writing and speaking. So the final is a test of writing. This midterm is a test of speaking to balance it out. So let's do the attendance and then we'll have a go at the book. So tell me who is here. I think we've got everyone. 1st of March, yeah. So, Lê Vu Giả Bảo. Lê Vu Giả Bảo. Giả Bảo is here or not here? I am looking at the attendance page now, not at the video, so I cannot see if you're sending messages. Where is that person? Lê Vu Giả Bảo. Lê Vu Giả Bảo is here today or not here? Nobody knows? Or is it Lê Vu Giả Bảo? Let's look at the names. We've got Bao Bao. That's not Bao Bao, no? Anybody know about Lê Vu Giả Bảo? Lê Vu Giả Bảo? Nobody knows about Lê Vu Giả Bảo. Can't see on the list. So do you think that person is absent today? Yeah, I can't see their name. Lê Vu Giả Bảo, the first one. Is that person absent today? You don't know? Maybe absent, yeah. Okay, so Lê Vu Giả Bảo is absent, yeah? Absent today. So that's another point. Can somebody tell Lê Vu Giả Bảo to prepare to write their name down and find a topic for next week, okay? Chan Suan Yuen?
Yes.
Yes, you are here, good. Nguyen Ngọc Han?
Yes.
Yes, good. Nguyen Duc Nam?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, good. Nguyen Ngọc Minh Thử? Minh Thử? Is Minh Thư here? Yes. Is where? Say that again. Can you? In the where? That's a town. What's a bok chas? Anybody know what a bok chas is?
It's in the chat, like chat box in Google Meet.
Oh, you mean she's in another one? In another chat box?
She's texting to you.
Oh, I can see there's a message. It says, teacher,
Yes.
I'm here. Min too. Oh. Okay, yeah, so I'm mostly looking at the attendance, so it's difficult to see the messages. So Mintu is here, yeah? Vo Ti Tan Hang, oh, that's always absent. Vo Ti Tu. Vo Ti Tan Hang is absent, yeah? Absent. So we got 2 absent, yeah? And Lê Vu Giả Bảo is also absent today. Young Min Hyu. Min Hyu. Young Min Hyu. Is Young Min Hyu absent today? Young Min Hyu. Do I have to go through all the names? Young Min Hyu. Nobody knows about Young Min Hyu? That's here. Young Min Hugh. Where is Min Hugh? No idea. I've got the name on the list here, Young Min Hugh. So where is Young Min Hugh? Their name is here on the people in here, but Young Min Hugh. Where is Young Min Hugh? Some technical problem? Nobody helping me. What do you think? Technical problem? Their name is on the list, so should I put Young Min Hugh, who is here, present? Nobody tell me. Nguyen Kim Hwan. Kim Hwan.
Yes.
Nguyen Kim Hwan.
Yes, teacher.
Is Kim Hwan here? Why am I getting no sound?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I guess so.
She
Kim
said
Hwan.
yes.
Yes.
She said yes. Oh, well, very quietly, yeah. So that's my. So remember, for the speaking test next week, you have to be loud enough, clear enough, and long enough. The three enough. So she's here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thanks for telling me, because I don't know. Okay. So Nguyen Huan is here, present. Nguyen Thi Nhiêu Ngã.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Oops. Is that right? Yeah. Nguyen Thi Nhiêu Ngọc.
Yes.
Is here. Nguyen Van Minh Thẩm. Minh Thẩm. Yes. Okay. I could hear that. Where is it? Vu Thi Tan Tui.
Yes.
Tan Tui is here. Nguyen Ngọc Minh Thử. Minh Thử.
Yes.
Minh Thư is here. Good. Chao Thi Ngan Yang.
Yes.
Chao Thi Ngan Yang.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, that's a yes, is it? Yes. Okay. Phan Kim Ngan.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, good. Phu Tui Suan Mai.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, good. Queen Tan Ngan.
Yes, teacher.
Good. Queen Nguyen Tui Chang.
Yes, teacher.
Yes. Lei Do Minh Thử.
Yes, teacher.
Yes. Good. Chung Thành Đáp.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, good. Uy Minh Quan.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, okay, good. Đăng Phúc Nam. Phúc Nam. Đăng Phúc Nam. Where is Đăng Phúc Nam? Some technical problem. Anybody know about Đăng Phúc Nam? What's that? Are you Đăng Phúc Nam?
Yes, that's him. He present. There's something. Yeah, there's something wrong with his microphone.
I see. Okay, thanks for telling me. So Đăng Phúc Nam is here, yeah? Đăng Phúc Nam. Nguyen Phi Nhiong. Phi Nhiong.
Yes, I'm here.
Good, here. Huang Khao Quốc Tuan.
Yes, I'm here.
Quốc Tuan is here. Good. Lee Kwok Viet.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, good. Can Nguyen Kang Lin.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, I know you. Yeah. Okay, and Lei Ngok Tien.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, good. And Nguyen Long Hai An. That was yes, I think. Okay, good. So we've got everybody except there are 2 people absent. Yeah. There are only 2 people. One maybe dropped out, this one, yeah. So Voti Can Hang is absent, maybe dropped out. But also today, Lei Vu Ya Bao is absent today, yeah? Is that right? Lei Vu Ya Bao is absent today, yeah? That's right. I hope so. Because I'm going to save it like that. Okay. Okay, everybody, any problems about that? Okay, so that's the attendance. We are nearly 3:30, so we've only got just over an hour. Let's do a bit from the book. We are not too bad, I think, but I can't remember exactly where we were last time, so maybe you can help me out. Partly because I have 2 classes and we're at different stages, because the Monday class has done more classes than you, so they're probably ahead of you, but not necessarily by very much. But I can't remember exactly where we got to last time, so try to help me out. Where's a good place to ask you? Speaking for... So I guess we are somewhere in Unit 1, yeah, but I can't remember exactly. Did we do this one where we do the stereotypes? Did we do the stereotypes? Chinese, British, New Zealand, American stereotypes. Did we do that? I'm just wondering who Vin Mai is. Is that on the list? Okay. Did we do this?
We have already done that talk.
We already did that, yeah?
Yes.
The stereotypes. Okay. Can you tell me how far we got? So did we do all this page? Yeah,
I think
go on.
we moved to page 15, number 5, the adverb of frequency.
Oh, we did page 15, number 5.
Yep, we I remember that we already done page 14, so today we moved to page 15.
Oh, okay, well that's good. You are better. I'm sorry, I forget things sometimes. So we did page 14, but so now we're on 15, the adverbs of frequency, yeah? Okay, so that's a good topic, adverbs of frequency. So that means, everybody happy about that? That means we use these kind of words such as we have in the box: always, never, usually, sometimes, often, rarely, not often. Those kind of words, yeah? So it says take, at the top here, it says take turns to ask and answer questions about the people in the table below. Okay, so you need to look at the table. There are 4 people: Marcus, Francesca, Tina, and Miroslav. And the questions here are, who is a good time manager? And they suggest the answer, Marcus. Why is Marcus a good time manager? Because he always finishes on time. It says always. If you look at the first column, so that's why he's a good time manager. He always finishes on time. Okay. Everybody happy so far? Now let's try and do the other ones. Who is a perfectionist and why? So look at the columns. Which one is going to tell us about perfectionist? It's number 5. Oh, I see. I didn't see that before. So when we are looking for the perfectionist, what do we look for? Can you see that well there, like that? Yeah, okay, I think so. Can see the 4 people. Yeah. Which column do we use to find the perfectionist? So a perfectionist is the kind of person who doesn't make many mistakes. They always try to do things perfectly. So that can be a good thing, but sometimes it's a bad thing. Because, you know, we have to make mistakes. That's how we learn things. So you don't want to be too much of a perfectionist, but okay. So look at the 4 names then in that column where it says make mistakes. It says Marcus often, Francesca rarely, Tina often, Miroslav sometimes. Who do you think is the perfectionist? Marcus, Francesca, Tina, or Miroslav? Any idea?
I think Francesca is a perfectionist.
Yeah, because she doesn't make many mistakes. It says rarely. And by the way, that's an Italian name, so we should pronounce it Francesca. But it says rarely, yeah? Francesca rarely makes mistakes. So she makes less mistakes than Marcos or Tina or Miroslav, yeah? So she's more of a perfectionist than the others, yeah. Good, that's the right answer. Number 3, who is a good manager? So which column do we need to find out who is a good manager? Any suggestions for the column we should use? Actually, there are 2 that are kind of similar, yeah? The second one says encourage the team. And the, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seventh one says help colleagues. So, actually, that's the next one. Okay, so 3 and 4 are a little similar. 3 is who is a good manager, and 4 is who is a team player. So I think the team player will help the colleagues more, but the manager will encourage the team. They're a little similar, you can see. Team player will help team. So if the manager is the person who encourages the team, who is a good manager?
So Tina will be a good manager because she nearly
Yes.
always encourage the team.
Yes, good. Because it says nearly always. And, you know, you have to get your adverbs of frequency in the right order. Yeah, so nearly always is the maximum, the most there. It's more than often. Often is actually maybe about 60%, but nearly always is more like 85, 90%. So Tina is encourages the team most. So Tina is a good manager. And then there's this, not exactly the same, but a bit similar. Who is a good team player? A good team player is the person who helps their colleagues the most. Who is a good team player?
So there are 2 people, that is Tina and I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
How to pronounce? Yeah, pronounce. So this is like the Eastern European, or maybe not so much, or maybe I should say Balkans or something. The Slavic names, so it is actually Miroslav. So they are people from the Balkan countries or the Slavic countries. Do you know Slavic people? There used to be a country called Yugoslavia, but it doesn't exist anymore. It's split up into lots of little countries. In the Balkans, means kind of northwest of Greece, west of Turkey. And those Slavic people also include Russians and Polish and the people the Russians are fighting at the moment, Ukrainians, because they said, why are 2 Slavic people fighting each other? Usually they help each other. Or those Eastern European countries, some other Eastern European countries, they are Slavic. So it's one of those Slavic names. So it actually says Slav in the name, Miroslav, yeah? So as you said, there are 2 people who help their colleagues, Tina and Miroslav, because they are both nearly always help their colleagues. Yeah. Okay, that's okay, everybody. Who is a good leader? A leader. we have to find the best column. What is the best column for a leader?
I think it may be set a good example.
Oh, good, yes. So a leader sets a good example. And who is the best person for setting a good example?
Miroslav will be a good
Miroslav. Really?
Miroslav.
Are you sure?
I can feel always in usually, but I think usually will be suitable.
You think usually is more than always? Always means 100%, 100%, but usually means about 80 or 85%.
Oh, so Tina might be a good leader.
If I say
Yeah,
I
leader.
always go to the supermarket, that means kind of every time, every day or something. If I say I usually go to the supermarket, that means 4 or 5 times a week, but not every day, yeah? So always is more than usually. Usually, and sometimes, I mean, sometimes is about 50%, usually is 70, 80% maybe, and then always is 100% all the time. So who is the best leader? Not Miroslav.
Tina.
Tina is the best leader because she always sets a good example. And Tina is also the best manager, yeah, so that's kind of go together. Okay, so next one is number 6. Who is a good communicator? A good communicator.
I think good communicator will share the information.
Yeah, that's the person that shares correct information. Yeah. So who is that the best one?
We have Tina and Miroslav.
Yeah, Tina and Miroslav, yeah. Because it says usually for both of them, usually. So share information, Tina and Miroslav are a good communicator. Okay, number 7, who is a good problem solver? Yeah, find solutions, because it says usually, so usually is more than sometimes, yeah. Maybe 80 or something percent, 80%, whereas sometimes it's more like 50. Okay, so find solutions usually, that's Miroslav is a good problem solver. And number 8, who is a workaholic? Do you know workaholic? Do you know what it means? That's an Italian name, so Francesca. Why is Francesca a workaholic? And I think that's a woman's name. Yeah, she never goes on holiday. Yeah, because it says go on holiday, never. So Francesca, yeah, So a workaholic is somebody who works very hard. In Japan, they have a word called karoshi, and karoshi means to die from working too hard. So that's a kind of super workaholic. If you work too hard that it kills you, that's karoshi. But okay, a workaholic works very hard, never goes on holiday. Okay, Francesca. Everybody okay about that? Any questions? So we could do the asking and answering questions here, but let's go on to number 7. We've got 13, 14, 15. Listen to 3 parts of a radio program. And this is another one of your things about cultural habits in different, I mean, it's in Europe, but different countries, different parts of Europe. Add the countries and the percentages to the chart. Can you see what to do there? So number 1, you've got 2 countries at the top, and you've got oh, I see, we've got 3 columns. So the first column is always the EU average, and then we've got 2 more columns. So number 1 is about travel abroad. Number 2 is about watch TV or films in a foreign language. We got the EU average and then 2 more countries. And then number 3 is about read a newspaper in a foreign language. We got the EU average and 2 more countries. They want you to fill in the spaces there, okay? So let's do 13 first, 113. Maybe I can get rid of the attendance. Yeah, and that. Okay, and I need 113. Put it down. Okay, yeah, it will tell me here. Okay. Part 1.
So, how often do we Europeans travel abroad?
Well, it depends. No, in Bulgaria.
Only 5% of Bulgarians go abroad. Wow. And which country travels most?
Oh, the Netherlands. They travel once or twice a year.
Okay, let's just fill in the information. So we've got the EU average is 27% of people travel abroad. And it's got the Bulgaria travel abroad. How many people in Bulgaria travel abroad in a year? Anybody hear that, or you couldn't hear it? You want me to play it again? Actually, if you can't, yeah, just play it again. Play it again, play it again. Good.
abroad?
Well, it depends. A lot of us often go abroad. In Bulgaria, only 5%
Of Bulgaria. Wow. And which country travels most?
Oh, the Netherlands. 65% of Dutch people leave Holland. They travel once or twice a year.
Did you go abroad in a year? Anybody here? Could you hear it? It's not difficult, but I just don't know. Can you hear that or not? You cannot hear it? Can't hear? Oh, you can't hear? What, there's no sound at all? It's too quiet? The internet is choppy, it keeps breaking up. Okay, if you can't hear it, then look at the script for the audios. I think, can anybody tell me what pages is the script on, from after 160 or 180? Let's try 180. Oh, it doesn't have that many, sorry. It won't do that. Oh, it only has 62 pages. Okay, sorry. Let's try 150 then. Okay. Here. It's less, it's about 140 something. Blah, 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 blah. We're looking for what? 113, yeah? Not yet. Nearly. Here, grammar, present simple, 113. What page is that? Page 141. 141. Can you see that there? I put it up there. Let's read it. The presenter says, so how often do we Europeans go abroad? Journalist, well, it depends. A lot of us often go abroad. On average, 27% of Europeans visit another country once a year, mostly in the summer. But not everybody, right? No, in Bulgaria, only 5% of people go abroad. Only 5% of Bulgarians go abroad? Wow. And which country travels most? Oh, the Netherlands. 65% of Dutch people leave Holland. They travel once or twice a year. So, we have any questions about that? Notice that they use 3 names for that one country. They call it the Netherlands, and then the people they call Dutch, and then they refer back to the country as Holland. So Holland is actually one part of the Netherlands. The Netherlands is a confederation. Holland is the biggest part of it, and the people in Holland are called Dutch people. But the Netherlands is actually a little bigger than just Holland or just Dutch people, just to confuse you, but okay. Let's go back and try and fill in the information. Where am I? I lost my place. Oh, here. So, okay, travel abroad. Bulgaria, what percentage of Bulgarians travel abroad? If you can't remember, go back to page 141 and have a look. What percentage of Bulgarians travel abroad?
It's 5%.
5%, yeah. Because Bulgaria is an Eastern European country. It's actually near Ukraine. I think it has a border with Ukraine. So they are fairly newcomers to the EU. They don't have a very high income, I think, so they don't travel very much. What's the other country that travels a lot? The country that travels the most, what's that?
It's Netherlands.
The Netherlands, yeah, the Netherlands. And how often do people in the Netherlands travel abroad?
They travel once or twice a year.
Yeah, what percentage of the people?
It's 65%.
65%. Yes, good. Everybody happy so far? How about in Vietnam? What percentage of people travel abroad in a year? Have a guess. I don't know the answer, so just your idea. What percentage of people in Vietnam travel abroad? Is it more like the Netherlands or more like Bulgaria? I think it's more like Bulgaria. There are people in Vietnam who travel abroad, but most people don't. If you have money, yes, maybe you do. Money and time. I don't travel abroad. I don't go to any countries. The last time I went to England was over 12 years ago. And I don't think I'll ever go there again now. Because I have a family and I have to support the family. Not that I live in a house with 6 people. Me, a wife, 2 children, and her parents, so father-in-law, mother-in-law. I have a job. My wife has a small business, so she makes some money, but it's irregular. It depends how much she can do. The mother-in-law helps with that business quite a lot. The father-in-law does a little. Travel abroad, no, unless you have money. I don't know, the other class said lots of people in Vietnam travel abroad. But then if I ask you, how many of you have been to foreign countries? I mean, you are probably above the average, yeah? I guess a few of you have. But I think most of the class probably have not traveled abroad, have you? I don't know. Your answer. Okay, let's do the next one. Listen carefully.
Track 14. Part 2.
What about watching TV in a foreign language? How often do we watch a foreign film?
Well, nearly always in Denmark. 74% of Danes watch foreign language TV or films.
Wow, well done, Denmark, 74%. And when do they do that?
All the time. At the weekend, on weekdays, in the evening.
Okay, and on average?
On average, 19% of Europeans watch foreign TV.
And which countries don't?
Well, Italy. Only 3% of Italians watch films in another language.
Only 3%? Oh, really?
Could you hear that? Anybody hear it? Number 2? Yes, no? So we got the EU average is 19% of Europeans watch a foreign film or foreign TV. Okay. What's the first country they talk about after the average?
They talk about Denmark.
Denmark, yeah.
Denmark.
Do you know Denmark? Have you ever been there?
No, I have never been there, but I heard about it on the internet.
What did you hear about it?
I'll just hear about the name of the country.
Yeah, I have been there when I was about 6.5, maybe 6.5 to 7 years old. I went there with my parents and we stayed in a little farmhouse. It's very clean. It's cleaner than England. Very clean. And okay, how many people in Denmark watch a film in a foreign language? What percentage?
There is 74%.
Yes, 74%. Yeah. So, you know, Danish people are good at languages, or they can speak English and they could talk to us in English, and some of them, not all of them. And, you know, Danish is a Scandinavian language, so it's similar to Norwegian or Swedish, and they have a border with Germany, so a lot of them can speak German or one of the other Scandinavian languages, Norwegian, Swedish or something. So maybe that's why. What's the country that speaks the least foreign languages, or what country watches films least in a foreign language?
That's Italy.
Italy, yeah.
3%.
How many percent?
It's 3%.
Only 3%, yeah? Why do you think that is? Why don't Italians watch films in a foreign language or TV in a foreign language? Why not?
Maybe they do not enjoy watching TV. They enjoy do other things. I don't know. I just get it.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, it could be, but I guess they watch TV in Italian. You know, because Italy is a very old culture. They had the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire was huge. A bit like, you know, the Chinese, the Han Empire, and they had the Roman Empire, occupied the whole of Europe. So they think that they are part of a big culture. So people should learn from Italy. The Italians don't need to learn about other people. I mean, some people in Britain are like that because they had the British Empire, covered 2/3 of the world. So they think everybody should speak English. But, you know, Italians, they have the Roman Empire, so they were a big culture, so they think people should learn from them. They don't have to learn from other cultures, maybe. But not all of them. There are Italians who can speak languages. I met some. Yeah. Okay, number 3. Oh, we didn't do number 3. Okay, listen and let's try to do number 3. 3.
Track 15.
There you go.
Part 3. Finally, reading a newspaper in a foreign language. On average, 9% of Europeans read a foreign newspaper.
9%? That's not much.
Well, I'm afraid only 3% of Italians read a foreign newspaper.
Probably the same ones who watch foreign films.
Perhaps.
Come on, Italy, you can do better. Just once every 6 months or once a quarter.
But in Luxembourg, 71% of people read a foreign newspaper.
Excellent. 71%. Way to go, Luxembourg.
Okay, 2. What was the first country? Read a newspaper in a foreign language. The average is only 9%. So the first one was the least one. What country is that?
That's in Italy.
That's Italy again, yeah? Italy again. What percentage?
Only 3%.
3%. So that's the same percentage that watch a foreign language TV or film. 3% of Italians, only 3% read a foreign newspaper. Which country reads the most foreign newspapers? Maybe you don't know this country.
Yes, it sounds a little bit stranger. I cannot guess it.
Yeah, I think maybe you don't know this country because it's only a small country. It's in Europe, but it's one of the smaller countries. Let's, where are you here? Can I get rid of this for a second? Now it's this one here. Luxembourg. So Luxembourg is a little country. If you go down, you can see there's a map. Well, you can't see much on the map. It's a little dot in the middle of the circle. Is there a better map? That's not a very good map. And that map, you can't see where it is. Oh, Wikipedia could improve itself. Oh, there it is. Can you see that on the left? So you can see it's a little country that's between Germany and Belgium and France. Can you see that? Germany and Belgium and France. And the blue one, oh, I see, the blue one or the red one. Yeah, the blue one with the red line. That's the country as it is now. But it has some connection with those other little provinces. I'm not sure. It's only the blue one, yeah? Yeah, it looks like that. So, are you okay? Yeah, I think only the blue one, because look, it looks like that shape there. So it's got Germany, Belgium, and France. It's a little country. It only has a population of less than 1 million, 600 something thousand, 633 or 34,000. It's a little country, and so it's a kind of mixture of peoples. Obviously, some Germans and some French and some Belgian people live there. So it has an international, a cosmopolitan kind of culture, yeah? Everybody okay about that? Luxembourg? Yeah, and what percentage, how many people in Luxembourg read a foreign newspaper? What percentage? Shall I tell you? 74%, yeah? So again, it's because the Italians think they have the best culture, so they don't need to read other people's culture. Luxembourg is a very little country in between three others, so they have to be, you know, international, cosmopolitan. Everybody okay about that? How are we doing? We got about 17 minutes or less. 18, 17. Okay, prepositions of time. Listen again. Can we do this? How blah blah do we Europeans travel abroad? What word goes in there? Can you see that? Number 1, 8-1. What word goes in there? How blah blah do we Europeans travel abroad? What's the word? One word, missing word. No idea? Give up? Well, what word do we use for time? When we're talking about time, we use the word, for example, how often? Often or often. How often do we Europeans travel abroad? Yeah. 2, they travel blah blah or blah blah a year. How do we talk about number of times? Yeah, we can say 1 time or 2 times. There are some alternative words to say 1 time or 2 times. Do you know those words? What alternative words can we use? One word for each. How do we say 1 time? And then how do we say 2 times? Any idea?
Like once or twice?
Good, once or twice. That's the answer, once or twice. Okay, number 3, all the time, blah, 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 the weekend, blah, blah, weekdays, blah, blah, the evening. These are prepositions. Prepositions are difficult little words that we have to learn. So they travel all the time, or at the weekend, or on weekend, weekdays, at the weekend, on weekdays, or in the evening. In the evening. Okay, and what's the last one? Number 4. Just once, blah, blah, 6 months, or once, blah, blah. Can you remember what they said? Actually, that was when he was talking about Italy. And he said, come on, Italy, you can do better than that. just once every 6 months or once a quarter. A quarter means 3 months, yeah? Just once. He's talking about read a foreign language, watch a foreign film or read a foreign language newspaper. Come on, Italy, you can do better than that. Just once every 6 months or once a quarter. Quarter means 3 months, yeah? I think can we do this one? How difficult is it? We can do a little of it. Okay, we have quarter of an hour still. Well, less, 13 minutes. Okay, let's have a quick go at this then. Gaining experience, speaking, meeting people and making conversation, okay? So expressions, this is a good one for the conversation. What do you say when you meet people? How do you make a conversation? That's what we're going to be doing in the speaking test. And role playing. If you're doing 2 people, usually you do role play. One person's a customer, the other person's a shop assistant, or one person's an employee, the other person's a manager or something. Yeah? Role play a conversation at a conference. Okay, so meeting people and making conversation. This is a good topic, yeah? So there's a picture, I guess that could be in a conference hall or somewhere, or just outside the conference hall, maybe. Okay, so complete the questions in number 1 with is, are, or do. Just choose one of those 3. Number 1, where, blah, blah, you staying? You have to choose is, are, or do. Can you see that? So which one?
I think, where are you staying?
Good, well done. Where are you staying? Number 2. Which word do you put in the space?
So what do you do?
Good. That means what's your job? What do you do? Number 3.
I don't know, like I've heard that, so what do you do? It has another mean, like how are you? Is that true? Or
no, that's different. That's how do you do? We're going to see that in a minute. When you meet someone for the first time, you can say, how do you do? And the other person says, how do you do? That's what we say when we meet someone for the first time, and that's very formal. You could just say, nice to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you too. But the formal way is we say, how do you do? And the other person then replies, how do you do? Okay, when we meet someone for the first time. But if we say, what do you do? Not how do you do, what do you do means what's your job. How do you do is how we greet someone for the first time when we first meet them. How do you do? And the other person says, oh, how do you do? That's a formal greeting. How do you do? But what do you do means what's your job. Are you okay? We're actually going to see that in a minute. I think it has it further down. How do you do is the greeting. What do you do means what's your job. 3, blah, blah, your job well paid. Choose one of those 3 words. What goes in the space? Number 3. No idea? Give up? Shall I tell you? Is, and that's the word I am always complaining about. Vietnamese people cannot say it. They just say it, 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 your job well paid, it. That's like the little chicks or something saying it. Sorry. Is your job well paid? Is, yeah, is. Okay? Is your job well paid? 4, blah, blah, you have children. Which word? What word do we put there? It's got to be one of those 3. Got to be is or are or do.
Is it do?
Do. Do you have children? 5, blah, blah, you live alone. Don't know, number 5? Have a guess. Try to guess.
Do.
Do, yes. Do you live alone? Number 6. Number 6. Blah, blah, you ski.
Do you ski?
Do you ski? Number 7. Blah, blah, you religious. Religious. Which one? You got to say is or are or do.
Are you?
Yes, good. Are you religious? Number 8. The weather, blah, blah, terrible. Isn't it? Is, yeah. The weather is terrible. Isn't it? Number 9. What, blah, blah, you think of the new government?
What do you think?
What do you think of the new government? Yes. 10. Blah, blah, this your first visit to Serbia.
Is this your first?
Is this your first visit to Serbia? Okay, and number 2, this is our last thing, yeah? We'll have to finish there. Number 2, work with a partner. Are the questions in exercise 1 appropriate to ask someone you don't know? Put a tick or a cross. Are those questions appropriate when you don't know the person well? For example, when you've met them for the first time. Are those questions appropriate? Yes or no? This is before the listening, yeah? Oh, it doesn't actually give answers, so okay, I have to guess. Are those questions appropriate? Okay, number 1. Where are you staying? Is that appropriate? Yes or no? Actually, I think that's a bit difficult. It depends on the situation, yeah? If you are both staying in a hotel, you could ask them, Where are you staying? Oh, I'm staying in the Imperial Hotel. If it's at a conference. But if you meet someone in the street and you say, where are you staying? Then maybe that's not appropriate, because usually very personal questions are not appropriate. So I'd say usually number one is a no. What do you do? Number two, is that appropriate? Remember, that means what's your job? What do you do? Yes, no? No idea? I think usually that's yes, that's okay, yeah? In a conference or something, because, you know, people have different jobs. It's fairly formal language. What do you do? Oh, I'm an accountant, or I'm a magnifier salesman or something, yeah? That's usually okay. Number three, is your job well paid? Is that appropriate? Yes or no? Number three. No idea? Usually no. Again, like number one, it's too personal. And usually we don't talk about money with people we don't know well, except in Korea. You know, I'm a great fan of Korea. That's what Koreans, that's the first question they ask you. How much do you make? How much money do you earn in a month? How much do you have in savings? But maybe that's not all of them. I used to know the real estate agent, yeah, and that's the kind of question they ask anyway. And real estate agents have a funny reputation, but okay. But they do ask that question. So but in American or English culture, we don't talk about money, not unless we know the person well. Number four, do you have children? Is that appropriate? Yes or no? Again, maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on the situation. It's a little bit personal. Only in Korea. In Korea, they say that. And then if you say no, they say, why not? Why don't you have children? But that would be rude in the English culture, yeah? Do you live alone? Is that appropriate? No, that's a bad one, because that's a personal question, except in Korea. In Korea, you can do anything, maybe. In Korea, they say, do you live alone? Why? Why do you live alone? But other countries, maybe in some Asian countries, you can say that, but they don't like it in the West because it's personal. 6, do you ski? Is that appropriate? I think that's okay. I mean, I would answer no, I've never been skiing. But it's a general kind of question. It's not very personal. It's just, do you ski? Do you play golf or something? Yeah? Are you religious? Is that a personal question? Sorry, is that an appropriate question? I would say no. Again, it's too personal, unless you're at some religious conference or something where it would be a kind of natural question, maybe. But anywhere else, it's a no-no because it's too personal. You know, when you're a salesperson, you never talk about politics, or religion or sex. Those are the three things. If you're a salesperson, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, don't talk about anything sexual, because those are controversial things, topics, yeah? You don't talk about that if you want to sell people stuff, because you don't want to be too personal, you don't want to give them a headache. Number 7, the weather is terrible, isn't it? Is that an appropriate question? Yes, that's okay. We can talk about the weather. The weather is a neutral subject. It's not politics. It's not religion. It's not sexual. So the weather is okay. In fact, in England, they use that as a greeting. They say, oh, it's a nice day today, isn't it? Or, oh, it's very chilly today, or something. They always talk about the weather because it's a neutral subject. We can't do anything about it. It's nice, it's not nice. We're just describing the environment, that's all. Number 9, what do you think of the new government? That's a good one. Is that appropriate? Well, I did say for salespeople, no politics, yeah? So usually we don't talk about it unless you are at a political conference. Usually don't talk about politics because it's too controversial, because people say, I like this, I don't like that. Even in democratic countries where you have different parties, if you're a salesperson, you usually don't talk about politics because, you know, people have fixed views. I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, or in Britain, I'm conservative, I am Labour or Liberal or something. But we don't talk about it because people have fixed ideas and they go off the rails. Okay, number 10, is this your first visit to Serbia? Is that appropriate? I think that's okay, yeah. It's not very personal. It just means, have you been here before? It's just a general kind of question, especially if you're in Serbia. Okay. So everybody happy about that? That's sort of halfway on page 16, yeah? We did the speaking, the discussion, but we haven't done the listening. And the listening has good exercise. So we are halfway down page 16. We've done part of the speaking. The speaking is important because we're going to do the preparation for our speaking test next Tuesday. So I'm going to see you next Tuesday. We'll start off by doing the book. So remember, we're in the middle of page 16, yeah? The listening thing. We'll do the listening and then we'll fill in this information. So I'll try to finish Unit 1 anyway next Tuesday, and that if I do that, I'm not doing too badly. And the case study is about the internship, yeah, which is a kind of training. That's a good topic. You could talk about that, but you might not know much about it. So, you know, have a look at the contents, find something which you are interested in, and then try to do that as your speaking topic. You don't have to do a lot. It's not a very long time, but think about what topic you're going to do. Think about, you know, what kind of group you're going to be in, 1, 2, or 3 people. Any questions about that? No. So I'm going to see you at the university, 39 Hammond Street, at 1:30 next Tuesday, yeah? And I'll put a spreadsheet on my computer. I want you to write down your names in an appropriate box, okay? Everybody understand that? So you can choose what order you go in. Remember, the incentive is if you go first or second or something, you can leave when you are finished. So go home, go somewhere else. So I have to do a kind of incentive, otherwise nobody wants to go early. But you do need to practice before the class. So it doesn't actually make that much difference you go first or second or last. You should have practiced beforehand. Any questions about anything? No?
Can you take my attendance, please?
Sorry, do you have a question?
When you take attendance earlier, I wasn't there. So can you take my attendance again, please?
Bao. So, wait a minute. Let me get rid of this stuff. I have to find it again because I saved it and put it away.